Hello everyone, I'm Brian and welcome back to part 2, so let's go ahead and get started. I hope you watched part 1. It's quite interesting. Definitely have to watch again, but let's go ahead and get started.
You here?
I'm yours.
No, thank you.
Professor Sir.
No. The world has a lot of problems, right? And, one of the things that we need to solve, and we were talking about some of this, just as we were sitting down there before the program started.
Can I correct that question a little bit, sir?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
The world doesn't have too many problems. It has only one problem, human beings.
So if we could focus on that one issue. All right. What do we do? How do we use, the insights, the understanding, the enlightenment that you have to go after some of these issues? Because they're very real and they threaten us.
See, by every definition that we have made, we have defined ourselves as the most intelligent creatures on the planet. Mm-hmm. These are all our definitions. I don't know if the insects agree with us. But by our own definitions, we are the most intelligent of the species. So our understanding is right now, whoever dominates must be most intelligent. Mm-hmm. So for which we are paying a lot of price. Mm-hmm. Whoever is right now in domination, he is the most intelligent. If you go by that, we are the most intelligent. Maybe we are the most intellectual, yes, of all the creatures. But we are not the most intelligent, because we don't even know what to eat after these millions of years. Hello? Even now research is going on, what is the best thing to eat? If you put something in front of your dog, one sniff, he knows whether to eat or not to eat. So this is mainly because this is a new happening. This cerebral activity is a new happening. We're a bit too excited. Just like, people are all engaged with their smartphones all the time. They're walking like this everywhere. They're not looking at the sunrise, even that they look in the phone screen. They look at the whole cosmos in their phone screen. Mm-hmm. Because the instrument is new. Next generation may not even look at it, probably. Right now it's new, everybody is engaged with it, and
the next generation is going to be in contact lenses in their eyes. You can see it. You can just imagine people just staring, and they're actually YouTube or whatever it may be. They're just standing there staring because they can't see anything but the screen, because the whatever they're looking on the phone is already in their eyes. Oh boy!
They're calling it a smartphone. Generally, someone will refer to someone else as smart when they find that person is smarter than them, right? So, unfortunately for a whole lot of people, the phone is the smartest thing about them.
And I will say, smartness and intelligence are generally very specific. I thought about this just a little bit. And basically, when you say someone's smart, it's not they're smart about everything. They're smart generally about very specific things. So a neurosurgeon is very smart about neurosurgeon stuff, but maybe completely dumb about, strangely enough, putting gas in their car sometimes. I've seen that happen. People don't know how to, in some states, don't know how to fill up their own gas tank, which is very strange. Very particular about not very particular, sorry. Very specifically, this one episode I watched is about these boy bands who, when they went grocery shopping, because they're not boy bands anymore, it's been a few years after that, and he didn't know what an avocado is or a mango or anything. It's kind of mind-blowing. It seems like they were served everything, and they're not intelligent obviously, but it's just the sheer fact that they didn't know what these things are. But there are some intelligent people who wouldn't know how to, say, fix a car, but they know all about brain surgery and everything.
So, this is a new gadget. This You should know more about these things if you have the right names for this.
The brain?
in the brain, this cerebral
The
development.
cerebral cortex and,
Yes.
yes.
This is a new happening. So we are little excited about this. This can boom, 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 you know, there's all those figures of blue lights flying all over the place and we're excited about those things.
But it'll pass.
But fundamentally, intelligence always has been, all right? It might have found expression in the form of thought, which gave us the capability of language and many other arts and music and things. It gave us various capabilities, there's no question about that. So only a very few, very small percentage of people used it that way. Rest of the people are using their intellect just to freak the hell out of themselves. You're only handling injuries or you're also handling people going off?
I only do neurology. I'm not board certified in psychiatry, if that's the question.
If they're neurotic, you don't deal with them.
Not trained for that.
Okay. They all come
Not professionally trained for
A
that.
lot of them come to me. You're lucky. So, this is essentially
God, I'm
like
sorry
you
if
have a
I'm
new
laughing
gadget,
too hard.
but you have not read the user's manual. You're doing something with it.
Learning the hard
Human
way.
suffering that you see, human beings are suffering on various levels.
So yeah, to me, whenever it said that, it's like we're playing with a gadget, but we didn't read the user manual. It was basically learning the hard way. So it's kind of like, like when you try to put the table together, you see the picture, you see what the final product looks like, but you don't read the instruction. You start screwing things together. You're like, this doesn't go like this. It's not looking right. Where's this piece go? Because you didn't read the instruction manual. You're learning how to do it the hard way. Eventually, you could make it there. You could end up breaking a few tables, having to buy some more tables. But eventually, by doing it the hard way, you'll know how to get there. And once you get there, you can buy many more of those tables, never read the instruction, and put them together. Learning it the hard way. Some people, that's the only way they can learn. And also, there's many things in life which do not have instructions.
As a doctor, you're probably seeing physical suffering in terms of ailments and surgeries and whatever they go through, injuries and stuff. But I'm seeing a different level of suffering. People who have no ailment to complain about, but they suffer deeply.
Yes, and I thought about this a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm pausing a lot more now that I did the first one. But it's something I see in developed nations. It's so weird that they're not struggling with food, water, or shelter, yet somehow their life is so hard. Especially, and it's kind of weird for some of the rich people to be so depressed and doing drugs and all that. It's kind of weird. It's so mind-blowing that they have almost no problems, but yet they seem to have the biggest problems in the world. And I think it's a sense of purpose is one thing that could, like, if they can find something that they can put themselves to that is a greater purpose than serving themselves, I think they'd be much happier. Maybe. I'm making assumptions here.
People without any ailment suffer far more than people with ailments. At least if you have an ailment, you have a good excuse. Most people don't have an excuse. Simply sitting, standing, they suffer. Everybody has found a reason. Why? Well, somebody is suffering because they are poor, they're suffering their poverty. You make them rich, they'll suffer the taxes. They're not educated, they couldn't get into the school, they will suffer. Get them into the school, you've seen them suffering here. To the best school, they will get in and suffer. They're not married, they suffer. Get them married.
They suffer. So, sorry I'm pausing so much, but yeah, this brings me back to… I've said this in other videos where, again, I went to a world religions class in college, and just because I was curious, I just check it out and see what the heck, and the one thing that that teacher told me was Buddhism. Now, whether it's a religion or not, she told me, I believe she was Indian, not Native American, Indian in Asia. Because the garment that she's wearing, and also she had the marking on the forehead, that Buddha was not a believer of gods. He was atheist, basically. And the teaching that she told me that Buddha believed was the fact that the world is suffering. So this is basically what it's saying. So they're suffering because they're not intelligent, but get them into school, and when they become intelligent, they still suffer. So it's so far a lot of things about suffering. Life is suffering, and it's a matter of minimizing the suffering, I guess. Didn't really go that deep into Buddhism.
So they are not suffering their life. This is something that needs to be understood. They are not suffering their life.
Sorry again, I paused it because I was going back to what I was saying about the rich, where they can go to any school they want, they can buy any clothes they want, they can buy anything they want, they're not suffering. And maybe because suffering kind of gives us a purpose to get out of suffering. And that can give us a sense of purpose, maybe?
If you ask them what they're suffering, they're capable of suffering what happened 10 years ago. Yes or no? 10 years ago something happened, they can still suffer. And they are capable of suffering what may happen day after tomorrow already. So essentially, their suffering is not about life. They are suffering two fantastic faculties that only human beings have. No other creature has such a vivid sense of memory as we have. No other creature has the kind of fantastic sense of imagination that we have. They're suffering their memory and their imagination. They're not suffering their life, isn't it? They're only suffering their memory and their imagination. If you take away a part of their brain, you definitely know which part it is. If you take out some part of their brain, whatever that part, they will all sit very peacefully, maybe even happy, I don't know. Because I find, I just met a lady a few months ago. I was in Mysore, my hometown. I just went to visit someone, and I was just entering a building, a very small built old lady, maybe she's over 75. She came smiling at me so sweetly and just asked me, "How are you?" I said, "Ma'am, I'm well. How are you?" And then I went up, I never forget faces, but this is not a face that I know. Then I went up, and after half an hour I came down. Again she came to me with a very sweet smile and she said, "How are you?" I said, "Okay." And then I said, "Okay, I'm doing well, how are you doing?" Then somebody came and said, "Poor lady, she's just lost her memory." But I said, "It seems to have done wonders to her."
God, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be
She's just…
But Sadhguru with the jokes, man. I absolutely love his humor. Oh God, sorry, I don't mean to laugh so hard, but it catches me off guard a lot. So what I was talking about, actually, I've seen this a few times, is where they go up the nostrils and they knock something out, and I've heard it changes people, where they become basically emotionless. Well, he's talking about memory loss, but this one, they become emotionless, and they're like almost walking robots. But I guess this is different what he's talking about. It made me think of that moment, though, about how you change as a person.
So exuberant and joyful. So a whole lot of people, when they lose their faculties, they become better. This is the unfortunate nature of our existence, that our capabilities have become our problems.
Wow, yeah.
If our incapability is our problem, that is understandable. But when our capabilities become our problem, we are heading for a disaster.
Whew, wow, but when our capabilities become our problem, we're heading for disaster. That is… I love contradictory terms. Something I generally really like. Like I say, how this is our paradise. I say heaven at one point, but I want to change it to paradise. Earth is our paradise. If you look outside, war, disease, whatever, we don't think about it as a paradise. It's a contradiction. How is this a paradise? Everyone's suffering. But that's the point. The point is the fact that we can make changes in this world to make our lives a lot better. But yet we don't. So basically, when you look out there, if you make the world just a little bit better, if everyone makes the world just a little bit better, it can become our paradise. But not most of us, but some of us choose not to. Some of us choose chaos or destruction and whatnot. And the world is the best we've got, and how we change the world and how we treat each other, well, that becomes our paradise, whether that be good or bad. It's actually, I like that. Our capabilities become our problem. Wow, you don't ever think about it that way. You don't think about what you're capable of doing as a problem. Generally, what you're capable of doing is a solution.
Yes or no? This is a tremendous capability. This cerebral development is a tremendous capability, but now that is what we are suffering. Our fantastic sense of memory and imagination, we are suffering this, and no wonder so many people are losing their memory because many times in their lives, consciously, unconsciously, they're wishing they could forget something.
Oh God, I hope… oh man, never forget. I hope to never ever forget. No matter how many bad stuff or good stuff I go through, never forget. Obviously you want to forget your bad stuff, but I would never ever want to forget that. Why? Because all the good and all the bad kind of creates who you are as a person. And if you go through something bad and you become a better person, more power to you. That's definitely the way I think to go. All the suffering that you went through, it makes you a better person. You are an amazing person.
And they will forget one day. When they forget, suddenly it becomes an ailment. But they were always wishing for it.
Yeah.
Every day, a whole lot of human beings are continuously wishing and praying, I wish I can forget this.
No,
But when they forget it, then they become a case. So…
kind of funny.
this dimension of what we are looking at is not about forgetting, it is not about reducing your thing. See, every day people are taking their own anesthesia. They call it whiskey, they call it wine, they call it their own thing. They kind of, just dull your memory, dull your imagination, simply sit there. It feels peaceful. Next day morning again, everything is back anyway.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I keep pausing, but he makes such amazing points that I point out myself too. Is there are people out there who drink to wash away their problems. All it does is just moves time forward, and now you have less time to solve that problem. I don't drink. I'll taste some stuff, but I don't drink. But yeah, I mean, you have problems, the best way to handle those problems is to deal with it. If you just put it off, or you drink it away, or you waste time, then you have less time in your life to solve that problem, and that problem is still there, and it could potentially have gotten worse. I don't know if there's a problem out there that you let it sit and eventually solve itself. Maybe there are some out there like that, but most of the time you're gonna have to deal with it, and it's better to deal with it the best that you can and the sooner. Otherwise it could get worse. But don't rush it, because it could get worse that way too. It's a fine line between, putting it off and dealing with it. Somewhere, not putting off, but thinking about it.
Unless you have a hangover. But people have found their own ways of anesthesia.
For sure.
And people are using many things, of course, more advanced developments have happened in that level of anesthesia also in recent times.
Right.
So, essentially, whether you pray, I want to forget all these things and live happily, or you drank a glass of wine, or you doped yourself, or you're on LSD, or you put them on anesthesia, essentially they're all moving in the same direction.
Forward, yeah.
You're doing it for a specific purpose, for a limited period of time, but they're trying to do it to their life. And one day, when they lose their memory, in a way, unfortunately, they've succeeded their intent. This is the misfortune.
Damn.
Because
Sorry.
people
Oh
are…
my gosh. My bad, I didn't mean to curse like that, but yeah, holy, yeah. When they succeeded, unfortunately, they lose their memory. Holy smokes, yeah. They're driving themselves towards that. We've developed memory, and now we're fighting against it. Memory is what made us who we are today. It's what makes us different from animals. And then we're trying to find a way, well, some human beings are trying to find a way to get rid of that, in a sense. At least that's what I'm understanding from him.
driving themselves towards that. People are trying to think, today in the world, people think there is something called as sanity and insanity. There's no real line there. It's a line that you manage by yourself, with your own discipline and your own perception. Is there really a line called sanity and insanity? Tell me.
Is there?
Oh God, sorry, I don't mean to laugh so
See
loud.
now, it's like this. What you think is normal, somebody else thinks is crazy. Is it not happening all the time? Older generation thinks younger generation is crazy. Younger generation thinks old people had for sure lost their marbles. Everybody is making these judgments. One culture thinks another culture is crazy. So, it is just a line that we artificially create and manage because we know if we cross that, we will not be able to control ourselves. Even when people get angry, the term that they use is yours always, I'm getting mad, so they know it. So, they know that they've crossed their line. The line is not same for everybody.
Absolutely.
What is my line and what is somebody else's line is different places people have drawn their lines. Somebody thinks it's all right, once in a way, at least 3 times a day I shout at somebody, it's okay. If I ever shout at somebody, then I will withdraw probably for many years because such a thing cannot happen. If it happens, I've lost it. So what is your line, where is your line, is something that you have drawn. There is no existential line that this is sanity, this is insanity. There's no such thing. The question is just this, if you're in control of your mental faculties, this is called sanity. If you're not in control of your mental faculties, this is called insanity. Suppose, right now, we can make an experiment with all of them. Can we?
Sure.
I'll give you 10 seconds. Next 10 seconds, nobody… a simple thing, what you have to do is, you can think of anything in the universe you want. Only thing is, don't think of monkeys for the next 10 seconds. Okay? 10 seconds, no monkeys. You will count millions
Oh God,
of only monkeys. So, our faculties are not totally in control. The question is only, how crazy are you?
Which is something, I say jokingly, honestly, to some people, it's like, we're all crazy. It's just it's just a matter of how crazy we each are. I never thought he would ever say that. That's kind of cool. And do I actually believe that we're crazy? I mean, to a degree. But, I'm glad that he kind of reinforces, like, the reason why I watch so much educational stuff, whether it be wisdom or just stuff, like right now I'm watching Monsters Inside Us, which is creepy, scary, because there's a whole bunch of viruses and bugs out there. But anyways, I love shows like that, where you learn things. But, I don't know where I was going at with that now, but it's just the sheer fact that, I use these shows to if it's something that I know and they say it back to me, I'm like, okay, cool, it reinforces my beliefs. If it contradicts it, then I'm like, okay, now I have to think both ways, because I don't know which way may be true. Or in terms of stuff like he talks about, it's never just one direction, it's always multiple directions, and any one of those paths can be correct, and all of those paths could be correct, all of those paths could be wrong, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 1 could be correct or wrong. So I use my environment and what people say as a way to verify or to contradict my own beliefs and thoughts. But
Okay.
man,
You are a
all
little
a little
more
bit
crazy than me. That's about it. But there's no such thing as somebody is absolutely sane and somebody is absolutely insane. What means a lot to me looks like insanity to somebody else. Is it not happening every day? What means a world to you, somebody else thinks this is insanity. What means a world to them, you may think it's insanity. All kinds of things are being done in the world, and it looks perfectly normal for that person. It's only others who are making this judgment that he is insane. Only thing is, if what is out of control goes to a point where it causes active harm to himself or to people around him, then we are diagnosing him as totally insane.
But there has to be some sort of agreement, and I'll just call it that.
Societal
so that
agreement.
we can have a functional social structure, right?
So you're saying sanity is a social thing.
which is something we're
I'm asking, I'm afraid to assert here.
It is so. See, even in terms of sanity and insanity, what is crime and what is not, is a social thing, isn't it?
Right.
It's a very social thing. So when we're talking about social things keep on evolving from generation to generation, it keeps changing. What you what you thought was wrong has become right, what you thought was right has become wrong.
And sorry I keep pausing again, but so many things is hitting up on that. It's like this one in particular. It's actually, if you, at least I can only point to the Western societies, not Westernized. I don't know what's going on in Westernized society, but in terms of Western society, America in particular, and maybe even, I don't know if all of Europe, but at least in England, that some things that were 10, 20 years ago that were okay and they were just joking about it, but now if you do it today, it's like, oh no, you're wrong, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, I agree with the fact that society changes every day. So what is right and what is wrong is just based on what everyone agrees upon. There's no objective right or wrong, kinda. I mean, there are some objective wrongs, like, you know, you don't go harming people and you don't go killing people, obviously. But what is objectively right? You know, maybe helping people, but then again, what you think might be helping someone is actually harming them.
In one generation it happens, isn't it? So social realities we don't have to debate because it's a flux that all of us create. It's generally called culture. Culture is not something that dropped upon us. What mess we create today is tomorrow's culture. What the previous generations did, they did not do everything consciously. They did some mess. That's our culture right now.
Okay, so if I understand the answer, it's a very hopeful answer. Because no matter how bad things look, they present to us a problem we can solve. Is that in the next generation? Is that sort of the point?
I don't think we should keep pushing problems to the next generation because it could accumulate to be too much to handle. We can't keep pushing problems, we have to solve them. Any problems that we create, we should try to solve them and not let the next generation try to solve the problems. There's a joke, at least in America, that, you know, that America keeps pushing the problems to the next generation, next generation, like the taxes, the spending budget, and even the climate, you know, where it's like, you know, the next generation will solve it. The next generation. Eventually, it gets to the point where there's no return, and then you can't solve it anymore because it's too late. You hit that point where you can't. No matter what you do, you can't change it anymore. I wonder if he'll say that.
You have teenage children? I'm not trying to define that. All I'm saying is do what you want. You cannot define this because, as you said, it's a social process. Social process, today we are democratic countries, so it's decided by the majority as to what is right. What majority decides may not always be a perfect solution, but we have agreed that if the majority says this, we do that, right or wrong. Works or doesn't work, we do just that when the majority says that, at least with certain aspects of life. With certain other aspects, we have retained the authority in some kind of experts. Let's say in anesthesiology, if you say something, maybe that's the right thing. Let's say somebody has come up just today, he passed his medical exam and he's come, if he says, he will be put through 1,000 tests, but if you say it, people will accept it simply because of a certain record and a certain reputation and whatever. But it may not always work. Reputation and records may not always work, but we are looking at largely what works. So these are all social processes. Without going into that, when we talk about anesthesia, when we talk about disengagement, or when we talk about meditativeness, this word meditation in English language has to be cleared because we've been going through that. See, the English word meditation does not say anything specific. I know it's become a popular word, but it doesn't describe anything in specific. If someone sits with their eyes closed, In English language, we say they're meditating. See, with eyes closed, there are many things to do. You can do japa, tapa, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, shunya, samyama. There are many, many things. Or you might have just mastered the art of sleeping in vertical postures. It happens in the universities, in spiritual programs, people learn to sleep with their spine erect. So, meditation doesn't say anything specific. Somebody is focusing on something and they think they're meditating, somebody is uttering a mantra and they think they're meditating, somebody is thinking about something and they're saying they're meditating about something. Essentially, if we translate meditation as dhyana, which is what generally, at least in India, what people believe, when we say the word meditation, people expect that you are speaking about what is called as dhyan or dhyana or dhyanam, depending upon how far south you are. If you're up in the north, it is dhyan. If you come down, it becomes dhyana. If you come to Tamil Nadu, everything becomes dhyanam. So the same word went to China and became Chan, and somewhere else it became Zen. The same word. We're expecting when you say meditation, you're talking about dhyana. If that is so, what dhyana means is, if you sit here, there is a clear space between what is you and what is not you. In the sense, what is you and what you accumulated. Body you accumulated, content of the mind you accumulated. If there is a little separation between these two, if you can maintain that awareness, now we say you're in dhyana. So this is meditativeness. This is not something that you can ever do. If you create the right conditions, this will happen as a consequence. It is like flowers in a plant. If you go sit in your garden and do flower meditation, flowers are not going to come. If you want flowers, you need to handle the soil, manure, water, sunlight. If you do these right things, flowers will happen. Well, the soil doesn't look like a flower, manure doesn't smell like a flower, water or sunlight doesn't feel like a flower, but only if you do those things right, this will happen. If you're… right now, this whole thing has become convoluted because we have become such a goal-oriented society. That means we are interested in the consequence, we are not interested in the process.
We're interested in the consequence, not in the process. You know, I have this thought on that. It's based on movies and books. Like, I've always said that when people spoil the movies or the ending, usually people don't care. I say this, it's a bit of a contradiction to what he said. I say people don't really care about the ending, they care about the journey. But then again, I guess there are actually some people out there who care about the ending and not necessarily the journey. But yeah, because I mean, you could spoil the ending, but you know, there's still so many things between the beginning and the end that happens that are very exciting to know. So even if the ending is spoiled, there's still many things to be excited about. And if the middle is spoiled, then you still have the ending to be excited about. I mean, a little bit related there.
So we have… we'll move on to the question answers for audience and also the researchers here.
We began this conversation with a discussion of levels of consciousness of… maybe I'm taking us down to a lower level that befits my character. But I'm wondering, one of the things Dr. Skiff you asked is, as people are recovering from certain kinds of processes, maybe they're entering different states of consciousness that science has not yet, learned about. I'm wondering if that theory is necessary, because we know about the plasticity of the brain. I think Baki Rita, is that the gentleman who talks about plasticity of the brain and extraordinary things that the brain can do to recover functions in different parts as it's damaged. That's one, and maybe that's a more technical question. I have a larger question for Sadhguru. You spoke very eloquently about memory, intellection, asking us to put those aside. And I'm trying to understand exactly what you mean, because I haven't caught it, I'm sorry to say, because it seems to me those are the unique or extraordinary things about us as human beings, right? The fact that we have this historical memory going back to Mesopotamia and beyond, you know, in India, thousands of years, and also as individual human beings, and intellection, which allows us to build spaceships in addition to sit here and listen to you. So I'm not quite sure how you mean for us to leave those aside or place less value on them.
I did not talk about devaluing them or leaving them aside. What do you think? Is this planet round or flat?
Oval.
I suspect it's quite round.
Really? You suspect it's round? You're not sure?
No, yes, I am sure. It is round, in fact. In fact, I think that is how matter has to collect around gravity.
No, don't go there. That's… gravity is another thing. But today we know it is round. Though, if I walk up and down this place, in my experience it feels flat. But we know it is round. We debated this for thousands of years, all right? But we couldn't figure it. But it became very clear to us only when we took off. We created some distance from the planet. You flew up there and looked, very clearly it looked round. You went and stood on the moon and looked around, 100% it's clear it's round. So what gave you this clarity is the distance. When you were in it, you thought any number of ways but you couldn't figure it. But the moment you had distance, you had clarity. So only in that context I said, you must know how to keep your accumulations aside. If you're carrying a bag, when you don't need it, you must be able to keep it aside. If all the time if you carry it, it'll become a torturous process. That's what is happening to people. Nothing wrong with your mind. It's just that all the time it's on and it's becoming torturous.
Okay.
Not knowing how to do, they're sozzling it out with alcohol or drug or something else.
Using that as a way of separation.
They are unable to bear the activity of their own mind, isn't it? If they could keep this bag aside for some time, all we have accumulated, it would be nice. You won't lose it, because nobody's going to pick it up and go. It's there for you, but once there is a little distance, you have an absolute understanding of the nature of what it is, only then you can handle it the way you want. Right now, you're handling both your body and mind accidentally. When you do things accidentally, anxiety is normal, and that's what is happening. Because everything is accidental. Because there's no clarity about anything. Because the nature of intellect is such. If I ask you, would you like your intellect to be sharp or blunt? You must choose right now.
Sharp or blunt? You have to I would normally say sharp, but thinking about just for like a second, I'd say you would need to use one or the other depending on the situation. But then again, I'm not sure how he's answering the question. He just says, you want a blunt or sharp mind? I mean, you want to… generally in how I'm understanding that, you want a sharp mind so that you're able to handle the situation. A blunt mind means you're hazy. But I'm wondering if he's meaning like your mind as a tool where, you know, kind of like in Hercules, the story of Hercules when he fought the Hydra, he had a sword, he was cutting off the Hydra's head, but two would grow in its place. But he realized when he used a blunt object, it would actually die, the head would die, would not grow back. So again, having a sharp tool when you need it and having a blunt tool when you need it, it's not one or the other, but when you need one or the other. Sorry.
I'm going to bless you. Sharp or blunt?
Sharp.
Sharp. So you understand, intellect is a cutting instrument. It's like a knife. The sharper, the better. If somebody is very sharp, you will say, oh, he's a razor sharp. Intellect, very sharp.
It's very sharp.
So cutting instrument. Cutting instrument can be used for dissection. With dissection, we know many things. Did you do science in your high school? You cut open that frog and saw how the heart was pulsing?
Never did it live.
The frog didn't think much about it, that's another matter.
Not a live
But
one.
you came to know so many things in this world. Slicing a human body, slicing a flower, slicing an atom, we discovered so many things.
Slicing
But
an atom.
Is this a complete way of knowing? Can I know you by dissecting you fully?
No, it's one way, but not
Is it possible?
the only way.
Maybe I will know you better by including you, by engaging you, rather than dissecting you. By dissecting you, I may know your heart, liver, kidney and spleen, but I will not know anything about you. Only by inclusion I know. So, you are using a cutting instrument, or let's say you take your knife and try to sew your clothes, you will have tatters. So this is what is happening with approaching everything intellectually. Everything is going into tatters.
Yeah, so trying to sew with a knife. Well, yeah, well, you're not going to use something blunt to sew either.
We are trying to sew
But the right
with
tools
a
for
knife.
the right situation.
It's not going to work. There are other dimensions of intelligence. We, in the yogic way of looking at things, we look at human intelligence as 16 parts. Out of the 16 parts, to make it simpler, we can make it into 4 categories. It's called buddhi, ahankara, manas and chitta. Buddhi means the intellect, it's the front end. This is essentially a survival kit. Without your discriminatory intellect, you wouldn't be able to survive on this planet. You have to discriminate. Now here a deer came and here an elephant came, you should know which way to go, otherwise you wouldn't survive. Discrimination is constantly on, which is keeping you alive right now. Otherwise you wouldn't know whether to walk into whether to walk on the sidewalk or in the middle of the road, you wouldn't know. So there is a discriminatory process which is keeping you alive. It's a survival instrument. Without it, you cannot function. How does this survival instrument function? What is its nature? We will not go too much into that because they're timekeepers. But
no space
it is
keepers.
something that everybody knows. The next dimension is called ahankara. Ahankara means identity. What kind of identity you fix, that is how your intellect will work. Right now you sit here and say, I'm an American. This thinks and acts like an American all the time. Or I say I'm an Indian, it thinks and acts like an Indian. In India, there's a classic thing happening in our own generation. It was all one nation. Somebody drew a line and said, this is India, this is Pakistan. Suddenly, some line that somebody drew and nobody knows where exactly the damn line is, still the dispute is going on. All right? But suddenly, if you're on this side, you have one kind of emotion and thought, if you're on that side, you have a completely different emotion and thought. Just a piece of cloth, I mean a flag, if you look at it, tears will come to you. People are willing to live for it and die for it, all right? So that is how it is, identity. The moment you identify with something, your intellect serves that identity always. If you say, I'm a man, it always functions as a man. If you say, I'm a woman, it functions that way. If I say I'm this or that or whatever, race, religion, nationality, anything, the moment you identify with something, your intellect is striving only to protect that identity and support that.
Good thing I say I'm human and I live on Earth.
That's how your intellect is functioning. In modern societies, we've done nothing about this. People are getting identified with football clubs. They're nations by themselves. Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Football club is a nation by itself. People are willing to fight for it and die for it. Because we have not cultured an identity. When a culturing an identity means, in India there was a system, now unfortunately it's largely gone, though still some part of India still has this. First thing before we…
I'm assuming he's talking about the, oh god, I can't think of it now that I'm put on the spot. It says, unfortunately, it's gone. I mean, I don't know, I guess I don't know. The caste system. I'm assuming he's talking about that. Now, the caste system, from my understanding so far, was based on your name, and not necessarily how better you are or worse you are originally, from what I understood from the comments, is that just basically whether you're good at woodworking or good fighter or good teacher or whatever. And then it's been kind of how do I say, tarnished, corrupted to more along the lines of who's better than you, who's underneath you, which was how I originally understood it. It's basically, it's kind of like an order system, the top of the food chain and the bottom of the food chain. But apparently originally was based on, you know, if your family is good at woodworking, you're basically in the woodworking caste, which, now that I think about it, I could kind of relate that a little bit to, I guess, 300, the movie, because, you know, the Leonidas, like, what's your profession kind of deal. But anyways, it was that, then all of a sudden it got corrupted and became the, you know, who's better than who.
Start education. It's called Vidyarambham. Before you start education, the first thing is, you must take an universal identity, cosmic identity. Only then education is given to you, because education is empowerment. You should never empower a limited identity. If you empower a limited identity, violence is a natural consequence of that. So, just tell me, what is it that we are fighting for on this planet? My identity versus your identity. It may be race, it may be religion, it may be nationality, it may be region. Essentially, my identity fights with your identity because I'm identified with this, you're identified with that. So, before you empower a human being with education and knowledge, first thing is you must fix a cosmic identity for that person. This used to be called as Aham Brahmasmi. First thing is a child must say, my identity is cosmic.
This kind of reminds me of the egg video that I did. Basically, everyone is the same. I don't know how to best describe it because it's kind of hard, but basically everyone is the same. But I think it's more along the lines, we all come from the same identity. All, like when we die, we go back to the cosmic identity and then we get reborn. But essentially, because we're all part of the cosmic identity, we are all essentially the same, if I understood that correctly.
I belong to the cosmos, not to these parents who are sitting with me right now. I love them, they have nurtured me, but my identity is cosmic. The child has to utter this. Only then, first alphabet is taught to him, because it was education as seen as an empowerment. Just tell me, today in the world, are uneducated, illiterate people causing more damage, or educated people on the planet causing more damage to the entire planet?
Oh, wow. It's a back and forth. It's to me, to answer that, it's intelligence. It's like a tool. It does neither good nor necessarily bad. It's all a matter of how you use it. I mean, the intelligence has helped us live better lives. I mean, we have the medical system, we have medicines and stuff that we've learned that this does this and this specifically does that. It's that process took a long time to develop because there's a lot of trial and errors, but once we figured it out, it's become an intelligent part of what we've learned, and now we can use that for the betterment of humankind. But at the same time, you look at the development of bombs and weapons and all that, it's a part, again, another intelligent part. What tactic works and what doesn't work, which has become destructive.
So, it is just unfortunately, empowerment is happening without fixing the identity. With my limited identity, if I study all kinds of nuclear science, what am I going to do? I'm going to bomb you, that's all I'm going to do to you. What else will I do to you? That's all I will do to you because this is my identity. You stand against me, suddenly I have to do something about that. So whatever capability I have, I'm going to use it. That's what is happening. So identities have not at all been worked at, that's a big problem. But intellect functions according to your identity.
Yeah, a tool.
If we have to continue the analogy, intellect is like a knife. Is a knife, suppose we don't give a knife to a child's hand. Why? Knife is not dangerous. Child's hand is not steady, that is the problem, isn't it? You are in the surgery rooms all the time. Tell me, on this planet, are knives taking more lives or making more lives? Hello? Really, it's taking more lives? Are you a surgeon?
Well, mind you, there are people who a knife may take a life, but it is to save a life. Kind of like you use the knife to defend you and your family from an intruder that's trying to maybe get you and your family. By taking that one life, you save many lives. It's really weird. Again, contradictory terms. I love well, contradictory statements. I absolutely love. Use a life to take a life to save a life. Contradictory. Taking a life to save a life doesn't make any sense, but it does make sense.
It's making more lives, both in the kitchen and the surgery table. It's making many
food.
lives.
Okay,
Here and there, in an irresponsible hand, it's taking a life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Knife is not dangerous, it is the hand, it is the identity which makes the knife dangerous. If there is no knife, just with the hand we will kill. Yes or no?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the third dimension of intelligence is called as manas. This manas is the silo of memory, which we were talking about, 8 different dimensions of memory: elemental memory, atomic memory, evolutionary memory, genetic memory, karmic memory, inarticulate memory, articulate memory, and conscious memory. 8 dimensions of memory, everything that's happened from the beginning of creation here on this planet, from amoeba to now, everything, the memory of it is there in the body in some form, and every day you're using this memory in an unconscious way. You're using this memory, otherwise if you forget one day, suddenly you may start going like a reptile. No, it remembers the entire evolutionary process, and do not underestimate this. Now that you also said the planet is round, a simple thing with 2 legs, to walk on a damn round planet which is spinning, it's not an easy thing. Do you know how much is involved? The physics of it is very super complex. Those of you who are on binges of alcohol, you understand how difficult it is to walk on a round planet. Or if you have a vertigo or something, then you understand. Because it's a very complex process to walk on a round planet which is spinning. But we are doing it effortlessly because of this evolution. It's not a simple thing. Moving from 4 legs to 2 legs is not a small development. A whole lot of neurological development has happened. Only because of that we are able to walk on 2 legs. So now this memory is acting all the time, and the access point is the identity. How you are identified, that is how you choose the memory. Whatever kind of memory, both of us may have same kind of memory, but if I am identified one way and he is identified another way, we will choose memory differently, organize memory differently and act differently. For the same education, aren't people going different ways? In the same house, 2 children are born, same genetics, same food, same school, are they not going in like this? Because depends on what kind of identity one has chosen. This disciplining or limitless… setting a limitless identity, not a small limited identity, must happen at an early age. If this doesn't happen, our intelligence will work against us. That's what is happening in the world today. The 4th dimension of intelligence is called chitta. This is unsullied by memory. This is an intelligence unsullied by memory. There is not an iota of memory in this. This is what normally in English language is passing off as consciousness. So, where there is no memory, there can be no boundary. Memory is the basis of boundary. This is me and that is you, this is my memory versus your memory. This is me and this is a table, this is only by memory. If there is no memory, there is no boundary. So going beyond those states of memory is necessary for every human being.
Sorry, whenever I went… I thought about it. As I was talking, I was thinking about it. And it's basically… what I thought about that moment was the fact that, like, it's like, well, you'll know it's a table, but imagine you hit the table and you're like, ah, I stubbed my toe on a table. And then the next day, if you don't have a memory that that table's there, or you forgot that you stubbed your toe, you're gonna stub your toe again.
Whatever capabilities you have right now, because of our explorations, our knowledge, our science, our technologies, well, this is what is eating up the very basis of our life also, isn't it so? The planet is going away. We have no solution for that, but we're going on simply because we have explored bits and pieces. without grasping the entire dimension of what it is. Consciousness means that you went beyond the boundaries of your memory and grasped life as it is. Now it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, you will do what is needed and nothing more than what is needed, and that's what needs to happen in the world.
I think I understood that a little bit better.
So I want to hear about your thoughts on near life-death experience. A lot of people have in surgery said that, middle of the surgery they could come out and see what's happening, see the conversation, what the doctor is doing. So just a thought, when do people really die at the time, or they reach some moksha or heaven, come back?
Near death? You mean near death?
Yes,
you
near
said
death
near
experience.
life, so I was wondering what it is.
So when I saw you, I saw near-death experience.
Okay.
There's near-death experiences where, let's say, someone is about to die. Very often, we've read these accounts, like Dr. Sanjay Gupta's book talks about these, like cheating death. In which case, they then have these experiences where they may see lights or what have you. So I just want to distinguish that because they're two different cases.
That's what I want to know.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, when we say death, the definition of death on one level is you lost your body. That's what death is. So, let's not go into other areas, they'll get you into very fuzzy places. About near-death experience, it's… What is being referred to as meditation? We have a certain type of meditation called shunya. That means shunya literally translates as emptiness. That's not the right translation, but there's no appropriate word in English. So it's emptiness or nothingness. So if you settle down into shunya meditation, it's not near death, it's actually death, but conscious death. Suppose you're riding a bicycle, you are a new rider with little balance, so you will go like this. Some other kid is riding, he'll leave his hands free and whistle and look here, look there and ride and do all kinds of things, stand up on the handlebar and turn around, jump, all this. Why? It's a certain mastery, certain balance and mastery. Now, you can jump off the cycle and again jump back and do all these things. Similarly with your body, if you have a certain amount of mastery, you can jump off and jump back quite effortlessly. Now it is happening accidentally because of some medication, or for many people during 60s, 70s, the LSD time, there were a whole lot of people talking about this thing, sir, it's your time. It was your time.
Oh, okay. Metaphorically.
So, a whole lot of people talking about this, and it really happened to them. It's not that they were imagining things, it actually happened to many of them. But it was also because it was hallucinatory. Nobody knows whether it's this or that. There's no way to for sure say it actually happened to them or not. But I've met many people of those times who genuinely experienced things with which their lives got transformed in many different ways. In a crazy way, but suddenly everything about them changed simply because somewhere they perceived this… you can yo-yo this body a little bit if you wish, it's not a permanent thing. Just that little awareness changed the way they perceive life and they behave and they do things in their life. So this near-death, I'm not really looked at any of the thing, but some people have told me, some popular books, they were saying they see angels and there's a tunnel going. See, one thing is, you must understand, when somebody is going on the surgery table, the doctors may be confident, the patient always fears that he may die. Hello? Doctors may be confident, they know the case, they know what they're doing, 99% of the time they're confident what they're doing. But the patient, once he closes his eyes and hands over his life to somebody, he always fears what will happen. So every small thing he thinks is death. It happens to people. If you put a gun to somebody's head and just shoot and miss them or it's a blank, they almost died. Near-death experience, they'll blank out for some time and then they come back. They really think they went away and they came back. And they saw the scene also from the top, because that's because of the Hollywood. So, human mind is capable of creating many dimensions of experiences. It need not be construed as death, it's life. First of all, anyway, I'm coming out with a book on death, an inside story. I'm doing this for 6.5 years, it's not complete yet.
Okay.
Hope in the next year or so I will come out with this. Why I'm saying this is, in reality, there is no such thing as death. It's life, life and life alone, moving from one dimension to another, another dimension to another. So if I lose one dimension, it looks like that is dead. Right now, it is a medical fact that they say approximately every fortnight, you're losing 7 kilograms of your existing body and something new has come in 1 fortnight. Whatever your weight, you must just calculate in how many fortnights you're completely lost. Everything that you have in your body is being lost continuously and something else is coming in. But you don't experience as that every meal and every day you empty your bowels, you must experience it as near death. But that doesn't happen to you. But this happens to you because there is some disengagement in your experience, first particularly because of anesthetic impact. The disengagement with various faculties that you're normally used to suddenly makes you feel you're dead.
I will say about that, about every fortnight, what he's talking about, it reminds me of the fact that it's honestly, I've heard this a little bit ago, not too long ago, but it was very interesting. I never thought about it. It's where, you know, your cells die and they get replaced. Eventually, every single cell of your body gets replaced, and then are you still you? I mean, and that's a very fascinating question. I mean, are you technically still you? I mean, yes, because your consciousness or your faculty, the way you think and everything is still the same. But the thing is, though, is that what was originally you, the physical body, is no longer you, or no longer the original you, but still you. So it's kind of like, I guess the example they used was like a boat. Imagine if you replace one part of the boat, and then the next part, and the next part, and the next part. I mean, it's still the same shape, same look, same color, same design, but eventually when you replace the entirety of the boat with new parts and the original boat's no longer there, it's still this, is it still the same boat? That's a kind of an interesting question. I mean, is it yes or is it no? I mean, technically it no longer has the original parts, but also technically, because it's been replaced over a long period of time, it doesn't look like the boat has changed. And I don't know what I don't have necessarily a definitive answer on that one, because even though it technically, yes, it's not the original boat anymore, it doesn't have any of the original parts, but the only reason why we know it's not the original boat anymore is because this guy said, yeah, I replaced every single part in this boat. But imagine if you just, every time you come and visit go to the boat, come back, go to the boat, come back, and didn't know that any of the parts were replaced, you wouldn't know any difference between the old and new boat. You think it's still the same boat.
Nobody died. It's a completely wrong perception. Yes, every moment of your life, if you are willing, if you are not entangled with situations and your own thoughts and emotions, there are many, many things you can perceive right here. Right here, sitting here, you can look at your life from there, okay? This is not near death, this is life. But because, as I said, loss of faculties works out well for a lot of people, unfortunately. It's not a good thing. This happened. A man met a close friend of his that he knew very well when they were in the university together, after 25 years break. So he invited home for dinner, he went, and being an Indian household, the wife was serving and these two men were eating. And every time he wanted to ask for something from his wife, he said, my honey, my sweetie pie, my boo-boo-boo, my ko-ko-ko, my bulbul, and whatever else, your Tamil, so my tangam and my chuchu, all those things. So after the dinner was over, the friend was leaving and he said, you are having an amazing life, aren't you? I'm married with my wife for 15 years, we can't even look at each other's face. The way, the endearments you're showering upon your wife is truly fantastic. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you called her Bulbul, you called her Tangam, you called her this. I said, oh.
Knowing Sadhguru, probably gonna be a joke, and it's probably gonna say, oh, I just can't remember her name.
Oh man, I forgot her name 7 years ago.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh so hard. But
Loss of faculties, unfortunately, work very well for a lot of people because they are suffering their faculties. The greatest faculties that have come to us after millions of years of evolution, unfortunately we suffer because we have not read the user's manual.
Okay. Okay. I paused a lot more in this part, I can clearly see. But there was just so much to say, and I definitely got a little bit more into it. I was able to, well, input a lot more, obviously, but it just a lot of things that I thought about. The first part was more about a lot of learning, and this one I had a little bit more input because some of these things I do think about, and I talk with other people about it too. And I'm starting to able to read Sadhguru just a little bit with his jokes in a way. Oh, I forgot your name. I figured that was coming up, but I love it. Alright, so that's my reaction to Memory, Consciousness, and Coma, Sadhguru at Harvard Medical University. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.